Hello, how are you? Welcome to our lesson today. Today we shall learn about gaseous exchange in mammals. You will be guided by me, your teacher, Mr. Juma Nyamawi of War Girls High School. So by the end of this session, you must be able to explain how gaseous exchange in mammals occur. Remember, mammals include those organisms whose bodies are covered with hair or fur, or they have mammary glands, etc., etc. So, we shall discuss the respiratory system of all these organisms. Good. So, the respiratory system of all the mammals involve organs that facilitate gaseous exchange. And these organs that bring about gaseous exchange in mammals include the following. We have the nasal cavity, which is in the nostril. The openings which are outside here are the nostril or the nares. So inside here we have the nasal cavity. This is a very important organ for gaseous exchange. Apart from that, we have the larynx. The larynx, this is the junction where now the trachea usually opens to the mouth. Remember, you can breathe both through the mouth as well as through the nose. Okay. Also, the pharynx, and on top of the larynx, we have a flap which is called the epiglottis here. Okay. Then the trachea is also another organ where gaseous exchange, or which facilitate gaseous exchange. Apart from the trachea, we can also have the chest cavity. The chest cavity is made up of the ribs, okay, and the intercostal muscles. That is the ribs and the intercostal muscles. So these are the ribs, the ones which I've shown you here. This one are the ribs, and the muscles which are attached to the ribs are called the intercostal muscles. Okay. Then inside the rib cage, okay, this is the chest cavity. We also call it rib cage. There are very specialized organs which facilitate gaseous exchange, and these organs are the lungs. A human being and other mammals have got two types of lungs. Okay, what is the name of this lung here? The one which I'm showing you. Good. So towards your left, that's the right lung, and towards your right, that's your left lung. So these lungs are very important in gaseous exchange. Apart from that, there is also another structure. It is a muscle sheet which is just found beneath, below the chest cavity, and this sheet is what we call the diaphragm. Yeah, we call it the diaphragm. So this is the diaphragm. Yeah, this here is the diaphragm. Okay, so what have you learned about the structures that perform or facilitate gaseous exchange? So we have said that there are a number of structures that facilitate gaseous exchange, and these include the nose or the nostrils, which open to the nasal cavity. Okay. There is also the larynx. The larynx is the junction between the mouth cavity and the trachea. We can also have the trachea. We have the chest cavity. The chest cavity is made up of the ribs and the intercostal muscles. Okay. Then inside the chest cavity there are lungs, and below the chest cavity there is a sheet of muscles which is known as the diaphragm. Okay. Good. Now, we want to discuss all these in details. We shall discuss all these features in details. Okay? So by the end of the session, you must be able to explain how the nasal cavity is adapted to perform its function, how the trachea is adapted to perform its function, and how the lung is adapted to its function. Good. Now, observe this diagram. Observe this diagram keenly. It is well labeled for you to understand. So, we have said that the respiratory system is composed of several organs that are coordinated to perform gaseous exchange. So, the main function of the respiratory system is to perform which process? Gaseous exchange. We have the nose. Inside this nose, you can tell me what is composed. Can you guess? Which structures are found in the nose? Okay, probably you have said there are hairs or hair-like structure called the cilia. What else is found in the nose? Mucus, okay. The nose contains mucus. What else? And blood vessels. So what is the function of these structures which are found in the nose? Okay, so we have said that in the nose there are some structures, like I think you are able to see this diagram here. So this actually is the lining of the nose. If you look keenly on this diagram here, the one I'm showing, okay, this diagram, that is how our nasal epithelium looks like. The epithelium of the nose looks like that. So you can see here that the cells that surround the nose have got hair-like structures. Some of these hair-like structures are known as cilia. Okay. Apart from that, what are you able to see? So this is the lining of the nose. What can you see also? Yes. So we have this type of specialized cell here. This one is what we call the goblet cell. Okay? The goblet cell. This goblet cell usually produces this liquid here on top. This liquid here on top. Okay? This liquid, we call it mucus. Yeah, that is the mucus. So. Now, apart from that, what are you able to see in this diagram? In this diagram, some of you are able to see viruses like the coronavirus, and some of you are able to see the bacteria. So usually the nose is adapted in a number of ways to facilitate and prevent entry of microorganisms into our lungs. Like we are saying that its epithelium has got some goblet cells. The goblet cells, okay, usually produce mucus. This mucus traps any dust or even microorganisms like the bacteria and viruses, hence preventing them from getting into the lungs. Okay? Apart from that, the cells of the nasal cavity have got some hair or cilia. These cilia usually trap dust particles and also microorganisms like the bacteria and viruses, hence preventing them from getting into the lungs. Now, the cilia or these cilia, okay, or the hair-like structures usually beat in waves, hence propelling any of the mucus that has trapped viruses or bacteria outside so that it can be coughed in form of mucus outside. Okay? Now, apart from these structures which are not observed, apart from these structures which are observed here, there are also some structures which are found beneath this particular diagram. These are blood vessels. So the nasal cavity are lined by blood vessels. They have got many blood vessels which usually warm. They warm the air as it passes through the nasal cavity. Sawa sawa. So we have said that the nose has got three modifications. One, it has got goblet cells which produce mucus. The mucus usually traps microorganisms and dust, preventing them from getting into the lungs. Also, apart from that, the mucus moistens. They moisten the air, hence making it to be moist for it to easily dissolve into the lung. And also, there are some blood vessels beneath the epithelium. The function of these blood vessels is to ensure that the air is warmed as it passes through the nasal cavity. So let us now go to the literature so that we understand better. Okay. So what have we said in the nose? What is found in the nose? So we've said that the nasal cavities are connected to the atmosphere through the external nares or the nostrils. So these are the nares or the nostrils. Okay. Now, these nostrils are lined with hair and mucus that trap dust particles and bacteria, preventing them from entering into the lungs. The mucus is secreted by goblet cells. So the cells that are responsible for producing mucus are these ones here, and we call them the goblet cells. Okay? Yeah, they are the goblet cells. Okay. Now, the nasal cavities are lined with cilia or hair-like structures. The mucus traps dust particles while the cilia moves the mucus out of the nasal cavities. The mucus moistens air. That is another function of the mucus as it enters the nostril. Okay? The nasal cavity also are winding and they have got many blood capillaries. The process for them to have to be winding, if you get the chance to touch how the your nasal cavity look like, you will find out that it has got some upfoldings. This is to increase surface area in order the air is warmed, for the air to be warmed. And also it is lined with many blood capillaries. This one is to increase surface area. The many blood capillaries is to actually warm the air as it passes along the nose. Is it clear? Good. Now, after we are through with the nasal cavity, what is the other structure? We want to talk about the trachea. So this is the trachea here on your right of the screen. Okay. So this is the trachea. That structure is what we call the trachea. So the trachea usually open into the mouth. Remember, you can breathe through the mouth, though it is not advisable. Okay. So the trachea open through the mouth through a larynx. Through the larynx. Now, above the larynx is somewhere here. Above the larynx, there is a flap that covers the trachea during swallowing. Okay? This flap of muscles is called epiglottis. Is it clear? So the epiglottis covers the opening into the trachea during swallowing, hence preventing food from getting into the trachea during swallowing. Is it clear? Good. Now, this prevents entry of food into the trachea. Now, the trachea is divided into two bronchi. So, the trachea down here, it is divided into two branches. These branches are called bronchi, but if it is one, it is a bronchus. Okay? Now, the trachea and bronchi are lined with C-shaped rings of cartilage. C-shaped rings of cartilage. I want us to observe these rings here. So these rings, which are in the bronchus and the trachea, are made up of cartilage. Cartilage is a hard material, but it's not hard as the bone, and not as soft as the flesh. If you touch your ear, you will feel that it is a bit tough, but not as tough as the bone and not as soft as the flesh. This is because it is made up of cartilage. So also in the trachea here, there are rings which are made up of cartilage, and they are usually C-shaped, meaning they are incomplete. They are not complete rings, but they are C-shaped. Like here, you can see they are like this. So at the back, they are not complete. Is it clear? So the purpose of these C-shaped rings of cartilage is to prevent the trachea and the bronchi from collapsing. Okay, to prevent them from collapsing, especially when the air pressure in them is low. Sawa. So these rings of cartilage, which are C-shaped, they prevent the trachea and the trachea and the bronchi from collapsing. Trachea and the bronchi from collapsing. Is it clear? Now, each bronchus usually enters each lung. So this is a bronchus. Okay, bronchus. It enters each lung, and in each bronchus divides even into smaller tubes. These are called bronchioles. So these tubes which are found here, let me show you. Yeah, these tubes which are found here, the smaller tubes here, which arise from the bronchi, which are subdivided, they are called bronchioles. Okay, bronchioles. And each bronchioles divide into even smaller tubes, finer tubes again, which are called the bronchioles. Okay, now the fine bronchioles end into air sacs. These air sacs are called alveoli, as we shall see later. Is it clear? Now, it is also important to note that the trachea is also adapted in a number of ways. We have said one, it is lined with C-shaped rings of cartilage. This prevents them from collapsing. Okay. Number two, the epithelium lining inside the trachea and the bronchi or even bronchioles have got cilia and goblet cells. I think at this particular juncture, you can tell what is the function of this. So the goblet cells secrete mucus. The purpose is to trap any bacteria, hence preventing it from entering the lungs. And the cilia usually beat in waves upwards. It beats in waves upward, hence propelling the mucus with the trapped bacteria towards the throat, where it can be coughed out or swallowed. So if inside here there is bacteria which has been trapped by the mucus, okay, the mucus droplets which contain the bacteria or viruses will be pushed upward by the cilia. There are some cilia, as we have seen in our previous slide. Those cilia beat in waves towards the throat. Okay, so upon reaching the throat, that particular mucus which contains the bacteria or viruses can be coughed out or swallowed. And we know that when the bacteria gets into the mouth, into the stomach, there is hydrochloric acid which will destroy them. Okay, so this is how the trachea is adapted to its function. So how is the trachea adapted to its function? 3 marks. 1, it has got C-shaped rings of cartilage. This prevents it from collapsing when the air pressure is low. Number 2, the lining of the trachea inside is composed of cilia and goblet cells. The goblet cells secrete mucus which trap any microorganisms and even dust from reaching the lungs. Okay? The cilia usually beat in waves and propel the trapped mucus upward towards the throat, where it can be coughed out or swallowed. Is it clear? Good. So, what is the name of the air tubes that branch from trachea? The air tubes that branch from trachea, we have said, they are known as the bronchi. What about the smallest air tubes that branch from the bronchi? One is bronchus. Many are bronchi. The smaller air tubes which branch from the bronchi are called bronchioles. Okay? Good. So that is how the trachea is modified for its function. Now, let us now go to the lungs. Let us now go to the lungs. We discuss how the lung is adapted to its function. Now, the diagram alongside here shows the lung. It shows the lung. Huh? Now, the lungs are usually found in a rib cage, okay, or the thoracic cavity. You can touch your thorax. Huh? So inside those thorax, there are some specialized organs, and these organs are called the lungs. So the chest cavity or the thoracic cavity is composed of one. In front here we have the sternum, okay, and at the back here there is some specialized bones which are called the vertebrae. Vertebrae. We shall see in the notes, okay. Then there are also ribs. These are the ribs. Eh? A normal human being has got 12 pairs of ribs. Eh? A normal human being has got 12 pairs of ribs. Now, these pairs of ribs, or these ribs, are usually connected by some muscles. The muscles which connect or cover those ribs are called intercostal muscles. We have two types of intercostal muscles, and these are the outer intercostal muscle and the inner intercostal muscle. Let us magnify this part here so that we can see clearly, as here. Okay? As here. So you can see this is the rib and these ones are the intercostal muscles. So the one which is towards the outer, we call them the outer intercostal muscles, while the ones which are towards the inner, they are called the inner intercostal muscles. Okay? Now, apart from that, the rib cage also down here, there is a membrane or a sheet of muscles. This sheet of muscles is called what? It's called the diaphragm. Sawa. All these structures are important, especially during breathing. Okay? Now, what is contained inside in the lungs? What is contained inside the lungs? The lung, as you can see, we shall magnify this part of the lung here. You will be able to see that it is made up of two membranes. We have two membranes which line the lung. Okay? Look there. There is one membrane which covers the inner, the lung itself, and another one which lines the thoracic cavity on the intercostal muscles. These membranes are called the pleural membrane. Like here we have the pleural cavity. So these membranes are called the pleural membrane. This pleural membrane, we have the one which is towards the lung is called the inner pleural membrane, while the one towards the outer is called the outer pleural membrane. The space in between the two pleural membranes is what we call the pleural cavity. This pleural membrane usually secretes a fluid which is called pleural fluid, as we shall see later. Pleural fluid. This pleural fluid usually lubricates the lung. It lubricates the lung during breathing, hence preventing friction from occurring. Okay? Now, what about inside the lung? Now, inside the lung, there are so many air sacs. So many air sacs which are called alveoli. Let us see. Are called alveoli. Sawa. These alveoli are the centers where gaseous exchange occurs. Now, we have said that the breathing system of a mammal consists of a pair of lungs, which are thin-walled elastic sacs lying in the thoracic cavity. The thoracic cavity is composed of the following structures. We have the vertebrae, which are found at the back, here in the backbone. We call them the vertebrae. There is the sternum, which is the bone which is found in front here, okay, and the ribs. The ribs are covered by some special muscle called intercostal muscles, okay. Now, the thoracic cavity is separated from the abdominal cavity by the diaphragm. The diaphragm actually is composed of muscles, okay. They are enclosed and protected by ribs. The lungs are enclosed and protected by ribs, which are attached to the sternum. So in front here, the ribs are attached to a bone, which is called the sternum. And at the back, they are attached to the thoracic vertebrae at the back. Usually, there are 12 pairs of ribs, and the last two pairs are called floating ribs. Why are they floating ribs? Because they are not connected at the sternum, but instead they are connected only at the back here, okay, in the thoracic vertebrae. The ribs are attached to and covered by two sets of muscles. We call them the intercostal muscles. The diaphragm at the floor of the thoracic cavity consists of muscle sheaths at the periphery. So at the floor of the thoracic cavity, there is the diaphragm. This is made up of muscle. It is a muscle sheath. Is it clear? Good. Now, the muscles of the diaphragm are attached to the thorax wall, okay? And the lungs communicate to the outside of the atmosphere through the bronchi, the trachea, and the mouth and the nasal cavity, as we have said or seen earlier. The lungs are enclosed by a double membrane. What is the name of the membrane that closes the lungs? We have the pleural membrane. There are two. We have an internal pleural membrane which covers outside of each lung, while an external membrane which usually lines the thoracic wall. The space between these two membranes, we said, is called pleural cavity. Okay, it's called pleural cavity. So the pleural membrane secretes a fluid called pleural fluid, which is usually found inside the pleural cavity. Now, the pleural cavity, which contains pleural fluid, this reduces friction, making the lungs to move freely in the chest cavity during breathing. Is it clear? Good. So, what have we learned today? We have learned so many things. What is the name given to the muscles that are found at the floor of the thoracic cavity? The sheet of muscles is known as the diaphragm. Okay. What about the muscles that usually covers the ribs? They are of two sets. The one which is found to the outer is called external intercostal muscle. What about the one towards the inner? We call it the inner intercostal muscle. Good. What is the name of the muscles, or the membranes that covers the lungs? The pleural membrane. What is the function of the pleural membrane? Yes? The function of the pleural membrane is to secrete pleural fluid which lubricate the lung. Okay. So, inside the lungs, we have said there are so many air sacs. What is the name given to the air sacs? They are called the alveoli. Alveoli. So the alveoli, it is where now gaseous exchange occurs. Inside the alveoli. So we shall stop there for today. In our next lesson, we shall discuss about the adaptations of the alveoli for gaseous exchange. Bye-bye. See you in our next lesson.